Hey guys, and welcome to season 3 of the Us People podcast. I'm your host Savia Rocks, and in this season I get to make my guests laugh, cry, and even make them think about life a little differently with the questions I fire over to them, which digs into their lives and professions a little differently. We even had a chance to change up the intro, giving you a fresh, new sound. I look forward to sharing season 3 of the Us People podcast with you. Let's go.
Hi, my name is Denise Drinkwalter, and I'm an empowerment life coach. And you're listening to the Us People podcast with Savia Rocks.
Made up my mind, now is my time to shine. Now is my time to shine. Time that you let go, time that you let go.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Us People podcast. I'm your host Savia Rocks, and today I have the beautiful Denise here with me. She is a life coach, one that I've been longing to have an interview with. We've had a discussion before and it was so authentic and the energy and the vibe was so nice. Denise, I want to thank you so much for taking your time to come on the Us People podcast. How are you?
I'm fantastic, and it's an honor and a privilege to be here. I can't wait to have our conversation.
So Denise, my first question for you is, could you tell me about yourself, where you grew up, and how that influenced you to be the person who you are today?
Absolutely. Wow. I grew up in a beautiful little town called St. Mary's, Ontario, Canada.
Oh.
And I had the privilege of having a very, very loving family. My mom and dad were salt of the earth. They gave to us as children. They loved one another dearly. And it was just a beautiful atmosphere to grow up in. And the town that we grew up in was phenomenal. My dad was a haberdasher. He was a salesman. He had his own clothing store, men's clothing store, and for 52 years.
Wow.
And he bought it from a gentleman, and I can't remember how many years he had it, but it was a menswear store when he bought it. So he was a brilliant man, did all kinds of reading all the time, but loved him dearly. He passed in 2019. My mom is still alive at 87 and living alone and can walk as quick as I can. And she just is, she's a powerhouse. I love her dearly. And we talk pretty much 5 days a week over the phone. If I don't go and see her a whole lot, but we're connected. We're a very connected family. And my husband grew up in the same town, and we had eyes for each other when we were 16 years of age.
Wow.
And we celebrated our 34th wedding anniversary this August. So he too grew up in a beautiful, loving family. And we're just both so honored and proud of the upbringing we've had because we always had support.
I love that.
And there were moments that there were tough days for sure, but I think what has happened through that, I learned how to push myself and try to do more for me because I always felt like I always had that support. If I fell, I would get up again because I could reach out to those who loved me dearly and would always be there to listen, not to solve my problems. Yes. They never solved my problems. They didn't jump in with the cape and say, well, I'll fix that for you, sweetheart. As a matter of fact, this is a very funny story. This just came up to me now as we were talking, but I did a bet with not even a friend, a boy in my classroom, and I don't even remember what the bet was over. It was $20, and when I was in, it was elementary school, so I was in grade 6, I think, and I lost this bet. And this boy did not stop until I got the money for him, so I just avoided him. No problem. Yep, you won. he showed up at my father's shop.
What?
Oh yeah, he showed up at my father's shop, and he said, "Your daughter bet me she lost, and she owes me $20." And he looked at me and said, "Denise, is this true?" And I said, "Yeah," but it was just a joke. And he said, "Hey,
A bet is
your
a
word
bet.
is your word,
Yeah.
right? Bet's a bet." He paid the $20, and then I had to work to pay back to get my $20,
like
right?
that.
So it was one of those lessons. Everything consequence-wise made sense. So the actions and the consequences made sense to the action. So there was learning behind it. And I think I've carried that throughout my lifetime, throughout my career as an educator, right? Just everything has to make sense. And so if you have a problem, you solve the problem. And if those around you need to support you, the problem and the solution have to be joined together.
That's
and
true.
People coming in to save you is not going to help you learn. And we're all about learning, right?
That is true. That is definitely true. I like that story. That's a pretty cool story. Guys, don't go out and bet, okay?
No.
There's consequences to betting.
Yes.
Okay?
Totally. Yeah.
So, Denise, I would love to get more deeper into who you are as an individual by saying, can you define yourself as a person, but who do you see when you look in the mirror? But on the flip side of that question, have you ever looked in a mirror and not recognized the person staring back at you? How did you manage to reverse, not necessarily the negativity of the question, but the positivity of the question from looking in the mirror? And it's quite funny because on your website, guys, on Denise's website, there's a picture of her actually looking in the mirror. So when I saw this question, and I know I always ask this question, I know that it's going to be really relative to you. So how is it for you looking in the mirror, and was there a time when you did and you didn't recognize yourself? How was it for you to come back to be who you wanted to be?
It's such a great question, because you do look in the mirror all the time, right? We always look in the mirror. And what we tend to do, at least what I tended to do, because that's your question, what did I do? I looked at the outside. I only looked at the outside for the longest time. How did I look? What did I look like, right? So was I put together properly? Was I within acceptable weight range? Did I look fit? I always bought magazines, wanted to be more fit than I was. Well, you have to do something about that in order for that to happen. It doesn't just put it under the pillow and make it happen. So through osmosis, right? So it wasn't like one day I woke up, but what I can say is that the hurdles in my lifetime that I had to overcome, the challenges that I had to overcome, is what helped me see the deeper me.
Yeah.
It made me realize not only the grit that I had, because if I have an idea, my mom will tell you, Denise never lets it go. If she has a thought or an idea, she will make that happen. It does not matter. She ends up doing stuff that sometimes they were thinking you really shouldn't be doing that, but I believe, yeah, but I think I should. So if I have that gut feeling like this is something and I don't know how, I will go outside of me to figure out what that might look like, but it doesn't land until it lands in my heart and my soul. And when it comes from my heart and my soul, which I didn't even understand the depth of that until to be quite honest, until I had actually finished my career in 2018. That's when things really started shifting for me, because I was doing the busyness of life, which I loved. I loved my career. I loved everything I did, but it was a system and I followed systems. Some would say I bucked a little bit parts of the system, but that was only, if I did, it was only for the betterment of those that were in my charge. So the students and or the staff in my schools. So for me, the shifts really began to happen when I had at my end of my career, and I was like, now what am I going to do? But I had that feeling, that gnawing away, that niggling in my tummy going, there's more. I don't know what it is, but there's more. So out I go. How do I figure out what is the next thing I want to do? And things just rolled. And I started to open myself up more to possibilities instead of shutting myself down or following that person's track or that person's track. I started doing it that way, and it wasn't aligned. Something was off. It was hard. It was too hard. Life shouldn't be hard like that, right? Generally. Yes, we hit bumps in the road, but every day a struggle, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Bumps, yes, that's the learning. But that's where I started opening up. I started meeting new, beautiful people from around the globe, like yourself, right? And it was just a gift to be able to meet these powerful people and I felt I was a jigsaw puzzle and I was putting the pieces together. And I still don't know what that final picture is. I don't have the box that shows me this is what you're going to end up doing. And I'm okay with that. Before, I would have been panic stricken. I need to know how to get there, right? Typical educator. Tell me the goals of the lesson and I'm on it. Let me do it. But you got to tell me what it is. Now I'm like free flying going, I don't know what the end goal is, but I do know this is a journey. And I do know that I get to support people on their journeys. And there's nothing better than a gift like that.
I think that's one of the most beautiful things is not knowing. I think when I was younger, I always wanted to know. And that can be quite frustrating as well. Because you don't always know the answers to what you want to do or where you want to go. But you know you want to and it's frustrating you inside. So I definitely know how that is. But I've learned, I don't know whether it's a thing of when you get older and you become... It's a weird one to actually answer because I realized as I got older, I started to let go of this feeling of wanting the approval of everyone else around me and wanting to know the answer. When I let things be naturally, I realized that the answers came without me even wanting to know the answers anymore. And that is so much better for you internally. And there's another question for me where we're going to go into mental health internally and physically for your body also, because they both in line and connect with each other. So my next question for you, Denise, is how did you begin your journey of empowering yourself, which is so important, but also the first step is empowering yourself. And once you've learned about empowering yourself, you get to flip things over and then educate and empower other people so that they can embrace the power which we have in all of us. Sometimes it takes a lot longer for it to come out because of what we're going through. And I always say never judge a person by what they are going through. How did you learn to flip it over and empower yourself and other people?
It was an experience, I'm going to say, in that when I retired, I was like, okay, I have two choices here. I can stay busy and stay fit and active because I know middle age, because that's what I am. Things start happening. Things start dropping. Right?
Hey.
Building out and dropping. Hey, life, right? Hormones, here we go. So I was like, I don't want to be sitting on the couch watching TV every night and eating chips. I mean, it sounded like a dream for a week, but that was it. So I'm like, that's not long enough. I have longer to live than a week. So we're going to do something different here. So I decided that I was going to take up running. I needed something that was going to move my body, but something I didn't have to depend on going to a gym or having equipment, running shoes and a pair of shorts, right? And a shirt. Yeah. All good. So if you knew me in high school, I was the cross-country manager because I couldn't run and I hated running. So I was with my boyfriend at the time, husband now. I was on the bus with him, but I would hand out the shirts and the water bottles and cheer people on because I don't run. I walk around the block and I'm like huffing and puffing like a crazy lady. That was in my teenage years, I'll tell you. Sad. But I was like, okay, I don't have to run long. I can run around the block, let's say. So I started my own little thing. And me being me, I always like to set goals, personal goals. And I don't even call them goals anymore. Again, my growth and expansion. Because when I say goals, then I'm like, if I don't meet it, I'm not good, right? I hit that. So, but for running, I had to do something because I had to see progress. So I signed up for a 10-kilometer run.
Cool.
In Niagara Falls. And I'm like, well, if I cross the finish line, I'll be thankful and not in an ambulance. So let's do this. So I did it. I did the training. I made it. And then I signed up for the half marathon. And that was another push that I never would have in a million years. Had you asked me at 16, 17, would you run a marathon or half or 10K? Like, no, right? But I did it. And I could walk, and I made it to the finish line, and there was no ambulances needed. So I won big time in my heart, right? So the interesting part about all that I'm sharing is that was my journey. But what happened when I did that for myself, by myself, because of myself? So I use that. That's my mantra that I created: for you, by you, because of you. My family, without me even realizing it, became a support network that I didn't even realize I had. Like I thought, oh, that'd be cool if the kids thought that was my daughter, our eldest daughter, and her husband, and our first grandchild, because that's the race that I ran when he was just under 1, maybe just over 1. They showed up at the starting line, and I didn't know they were showing up. Well, Mimi, that's what they call me, lost it. Grandma lost it. What are you doing here? It was dark, right? I'm like, what are you doing here? We have to see this. Like, so my son-in-law, I'm going to cry. My son-in-law said, this is amazing. We want to show our grandson the power that everybody has within themselves. If they want to do something, you can do anything. There is no limit. This is so cool to be able to be here to support you. And I know how hard you worked for it, right? That was empowering for me. It's like, wow, I didn't do it for anybody else, but the impact of what I did for me rippled out to others. And that's the work that I do. I empower others by listening to, like you said before, there's stuff buried, and sometimes it's so deep we don't even know how to find it. We tap in, find that light wherever that is, and it just starts to get more oxygen and starts to build. So that's why I do what I do and how I can do it. And I don't teach everybody how to run. That's not right. That's not it. So those of you in the audience who are listening going, oh, I don't want to run. That's not what I teach. That's not what I coach.
You can run in it. You can run with your emotions, guys. That's a good way of saying it. Run with your emotions.
Love it.
Because your emotions are such an elegant part of who you are, and they teach you about how you're feeling. So don't let go of them just because, you feel like you're having a moment. All of us have more than a moment, believe me. And I think we call all our emotions and we keep them locked inside because we have so many traumas or what it might be that's going on in our lives. We call it the little black box or what little purple box. It's a box basically that all of us hold inside us. Once we learn, or we have someone like yourself, Denise, who teaches us how to slowly open that box and get oxygen, like you say, we start to release little by little. And with the help of yourself, we then start to realize who we are, and that's where the empowering comes. Another question that I do want to ask you is about forgiveness, because forgiveness plays a huge part in who we are, what we do. It can either make us very bitter, or it can make us very, very authentic and become a loving and transform us to be a different person. How has forgiveness helped you in your life to be who you are and become who you want to become and help other people too?
I think it's a big word. And I know a lot of people look at forgiveness as something that's just too big to digest. But I would suggest that we look at it a little differently. And the reason why I do that is because it doesn't carry the heavy weight when we shift it. So instead of thinking about forgiveness, because it's almost like you have to give something up and you don't even know what that is. And so there's fear around that, right? It's like, but I don't know. And they don't deserve to be. Do I? Why would I forgive myself? I deserve, like, there's all kinds of head games that go around that. And it's not beneficial. So I take that, but let's talk about what it is specifically that you're hurting from, that forgiveness needs to be a response to. And let's understand that. And then we can start to process, what is the learning that I want from that moment or that situation or that interaction? What is the learning? Because when we hold ourselves to that negative weight, it impacts us way deeper, way longer, and way wider than we can even imagine. We are shorting ourselves of living life to the fullest because we're holding this nugget of negativity, and nobody's winning. Nobody's winning. And primarily you, right? Yeah.
That is so true. I think another one that connects, and I know I said it previously in one of my other questions, is about mental health. All of us have mental health, even if we don't realize it. It's a big subject, Denise, and I know you know so much about it. I also wanted to talk about emotional behavioral disorder, which I know because I don't actually know too much about it, and I love asking things that even I don't know about because we get to share it. I would love for you to break down your version of what mental health is to you, but also emotional behavioral disorder as well.
So emotional health to me is very much about a balance. So it does not mean, and I think what happens for a lot of people is when they start to feel sad or when they are impacted by the external environment, and they take it in and they can't sift and sort and discover what the learning is from that they can take and move forward. It's when they get stuck in a spiral of the negative that they can't get out of, that's when there's some major need to reach out to somebody to help. And it doesn't mean you have to have, you don't have to go into a certain aspect. You can just know, once you recognize that you are in this, you are already aware. So you're already moving forward. It's when we don't recognize that we are in trouble, that's the issue. That's the major concern. But I really want to make people understand that emotional well-being has ups and downs. Healthy relationships have ups and downs. You can't have the ups without the downs, because the downs are where you do the learning. The ups are where you live, right? So you've got to have the polar opposites happening in order for growth to happen. If you were happy all the time, you would never have growth.
That's true.
Right? I don't believe that. So for me, that is so powerful. And I don't know. I mean, I think I'm hearing and seeing so much more about narcissism and things like, and trauma and all of that. And I'm okay with labeling, but only to gain understanding, not to give excuse that this is who I am and I can't do anymore. And what does the label do for you? If it helps you get some strategies and techniques that are going to help move you forward, then I'm all for it. But if it puts you into a box and you are feeling more stuck and more restricted, I have worry and concern. So I'm very cautious about labels for the purpose of labels. I want people to know there's so much more than that. And I want to shout it from the rooftops. I want all of the joy and all of the love that is so, so possible in everybody's body to be tapped into and spoken about way more than I'm seeing all the rest coming out more and more. And I'm not minimizing any of it. I just want to make sure that people don't just hang their hats on that and then suffer because of it. There's so much more we can do to help move forward in bigger and better ways for you, right? And everybody's case is different, and I recognize that for sure. Emotional behavior disorders are DSM booklet forms that I used to work with students who had diagnoses. But again, the only reason that I was okay with the diagnosis was to give me strategies and techniques. And the diagnosis didn't always match, right? It was a because there's some diagnoses that are so similar that it could be in either. It really didn't serve me to serve them. The best way for me to serve people is to be in their energy, to listen and to observe what's going on. That's really what I do, right?
Yeah.
And so taking all of those strategies, techniques, skills that I'm able to tap into, then I help people connect with their inner being the best way that I can, in whatever way they're able to follow and go the journey that they need to go. Some people are all about, give me all the information. Other people are like, take my hand, I don't know what I'm doing. Other people are in between. It's all over. I meet you where you are, and let's take the journey. Yeah.
Let's talk about spirituality and consciousness, because that's another one as well. When did you realize that you had the awakening? This is going to be interesting. I like this.
Well, you remember I spoke about my father.
Yeah, I know.
I was coming home from a conference, I'm going to say, in the big city, an hour and a half drive to my home. And I left on a Thursday, and I had gone to see mom and dad because dad was struggling with some health issues, and we were taking him to appointments. Mom and I would take him into a bigger city for appointments. So when I left him on Thursday, it was great. Like he was okay. He'd been failing, but he was okay. Went to the conference, drove home on this big highway. Driving home, there was a big 18-wheeler truck that passed, and there was a number that jumped out at me. It was like 1310, and it was just one of those like, whoa, that was kind of weird, because that was my father's store's phone number, the last 4 digits of his store, 52 years, right? So that was like, okay, keep driving the same highway, and I look up, and there's apartments, buildings, and 1310 jumped out again at me. And I'm like, okay, I'm really just going to drive now. And it was just one of those, what was that? So that was on the Sunday. I talked to mom on the Monday, and I was taking mom and dad. Dad had a cancer clinic appointment, his first ever appointment at the cancer clinic to see if he had some kind of cancer. So I picked them up on the Tuesday, and when I went into the house, he could barely walk.
Whoa.
And I had seen him on Thursday, and I was like, he was okay. He was not like that. When I picked him up Tuesday, I was like, okay, good thing we're going to the cancer clinic. So we went in, and we had to help him all the way. The appointment lasted very long, and we didn't get anywhere. He was to come back in 6 months. So we went home, and I was like, Mom, she said, I know. I said, I don't know what's going on, but keep me posted.
Okay.
So I stayed for a bit, then I left. I got the phone call the next morning. Mom had called the ambulance, and my father passed that early Thursday morning. So from Tuesday to Thursday is what he lasted. And the numbers jumped out at me for a reason. I was getting messages from him, I believe in my heart and my soul, that he was needing to depart and that I had more things that I had to do. And so I became numbers were a thing that started to talk to me and jump out at me. And so then I became trained in numerology.
Yeah.
Through a priestess in the UK, actually, Harriet Jackson, phenomenal woman. And now I do numerology readings, and I get messages as I do every reading. I get extra messages that I write notes and tell the person on the other side, of the screen, right? So it's a date of birth thing, but then I give information that will help them move their needle in life, that will help them get traction very quickly, because we can pinpoint specifics in the strength areas that they have.
Okay.
So it was quite, it's part of me. I'll never forget the whole thing and why it came to be, and how I have this sixth sense now that seems to, every time I do a reading, it seems like there's more and more information that comes through for me. So It's almost like I have some kind of a connection, and I appreciate Dad for him guiding me that way. So
hey,
how
I don't think the connection ever fades.
Right?
I think it keeps on getting stronger, and it's funny because, again, when I was on your website, there were numbers that keep on coming up. Like you said, there's 1111. There's 888, there's 777, and then all of us individually have different numbers. Like for some reason, mine is 555. Don't know why, it's 555, and it's 11. So at the moment, those are my two numbers that I keep seeing. So clearly, there's something behind it. So I'm slowly starting to learn what numbers also mean. So it's really important, guys. If I was you, I would learn about this too. This is something great for you guys to learn, because numbers do mean so much to us. It's just that sometimes we don't realize and take that aboard until something serious happens, just like you, Denise. But in your case, even though something serious did happen, it turned out also to be a blessing in its own way.
Absolutely.
That's kind of how. What is a day like, Denise, in your life, from when you wake up in the morning to maybe when you have a conference call, or when you're going out doing your thing? What is a day like in your life from morning to evening?
It's a great question, and it changes all the time.
I can imagine.
And quite frankly, I'm up for it. I love it. I love spontaneity. I love, honestly, had you would have asked me that 5 years ago, I would have been able to tell you, well, I get up at this time, and then I go here, and then I jump in the car, and I could, because I was routine queen. Yeah, that was me. We would have Sunday night meetings, because I called meetings at my house, because everybody had to know what was on the agenda for the week. And I kid you not.
Oh dear. I like this. This is cool.
Now, we have 3 incredible grandchildren. We have a grand puppy.
Hey.
Our children are around Canada. Well, not even anymore. So our oldest daughter and her husband and 3 grandchildren live like 10 minutes away from us. So they drop in, we drop in, we do a lot of back and forth support, have fun, whatever. Our son lives out in Vancouver, which is a 5-hour flight out there. So we're going out there in a couple of weeks. Our middle daughter flew to the UK. She's in Brighton right now with her fiance. Mm-hmm. And I have the grand puppy for 6 to 8 weeks whenever they come back. So I'm walking a dog twice a day, which is like, sure, whatever. Because she asked before she got the puppy if she had to travel, would we look after her? And I said yes. And Papa looked at me and went, yeah, okay. What? Okay. We never had animals growing up. The kids, it was too much work. I was not into that. We tried a couple, and no, that didn't work. That was not happening. So right now, and then we got a recent invite to go 4-wheeling up in Quebec not this week, but next week. And we both looked at each other and go, how can we create our schedules so that we can go for a few days? So we're going
cool.
like that's my new way. I still support, I still coach, but I also work my life in and around the pieces that I need to do for me as well. So I'm balancing all those pieces, which I love.
I totally love that. What is the best advice, Denise, that somebody has ever given you that you till this day take with you?
I seem to be thinking about my dad a lot today. There was something that happened when I was very young. My sister always knew what she wanted to do. Like she was like, I want to do this and I'm going to do this. And she worked and she put out. So in grade school, if you can imagine, it might have been, she was maybe in grade 9 and I was in grade 6, let's say. Yeah. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed, just bawling my eyes out because she knew everything she wanted to do in life. And I had no clue, right? I was a fish out of water. I didn't know what I wanted to, grade 6, right? I don't know what I want to do in life. And she's going to be a lawyer and she's going to change the world. And he just looked at me and he held me and he said, you know what, Denise, I even started to complain about my name. Aww. Like I didn't even like my middle name. Yeah, Denise Michelle. So he explained that everybody has their own way and they are who they are.
True.
And it was an honor and a privilege to hear what he had to say. I don't remember the exact words, but he was basically, because I was then starting to get upset about my middle name because she had 4 names and I only had 3. Like it was a big competition. It was like crazy. And he explained why they, mom and dad, named me Denise Michelle.
Yeah.
And it just made me feel warm and fuzzy inside because he said, you are not her and she is not you.
Exactly.
And it would never work, right? And so he just let me know that you just need to be the best you that you can be, and you will do whatever you need to make that happen. I know, right? So that was the best advice. Just be yourself. And don't worry about the rest of the world.
Your dad
took me a long time to figure that out.
Hey, it takes us all a certain amount of time to figure it out, which actually leads to my next one, is when was the last time, Denise, you felt like you are at total peace with yourself?
That's a great question. And I would say, quite frankly, any time that I just sit and do nothing.
That's good, actually.
Which is kind of hard for me to do. It's kind of hard for me to do, but I work at it. So when I just sit and do nothing and empty everything and just be, that's when I'm at peace.
Can I ask you, why do you find it hard to do completely nothing? Is it something in your mind? Is it just the way you were built? Is it the way that you built yourself to be?
I think it's a combination. I think I had to strive hard for everything that I got, at least in my mind. I had to strive hard. Mm-hmm. And because I had that, and I have if I decide, it's happening. And I would push to make it happen. Where now I can look at it and go, I can decide, but I've got way more than just me to be able to make things happen. So now I've got more of a trust in that which is beyond me and the human, yes. Right? I trust in the universe. I trust in things will always work out. And it's a big muscle that I had to practice. And I still get to practice it, right? I still get to practice it. It's a beautiful thing about life, the ebb and flow that's available for us.
I agree with you. I definitely agree with you with that one. I believe we are not defined by our job titles and who we think we are. So if I was to strip away your title, take everything away from you that people feel they are conformed to, who would you say Denise really is?
I am absolutely joy, peace, and love.
I love that. That's nice and easy. That is
who
nice.
I am.
That is nice and easy. For anybody who would want to be a life coach, because there are so many out there, and there is a uniqueness to each and every single one of us out there about the way we do things, the questions we ask, our energy of our being. What advice would you give to anybody who wanted to start to be a life coach?
The biggest thing that I think has to be anchored in is why. Why do you want to be a life coach? Really, really understand why you want to do that. And when you have an understanding of why you want to do it and it matches with who you really are, then you get started. Yeah.
I love that. That makes total sense. So I'm going to shift us slightly into music, because I believe music has a powerful influence in all of us. Even if we don't create it, we can be creators or listeners. So Denise, if I said to you, if there was one song that was the soundtrack of your life, oh, her face went, ooh. What song would you choose, and why would you choose that particular song?
Wow, that's a good question. I can't. I can kind of think of it. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back. No more, no more, no more, no more. So keep going forward in my mind. I don't know the whole song, but that's the first thing that hit my mind because it's loud, it's party, and I love the high energy stuff, right? That's what I'm saying. Hit the road, Jack.
Dear. Oh man, I like that. So I've only got a few more for you, Denise. I'm going to carry that with me. It is a cool song though. It literally, I can just hear it in my head now with all bass line, and yep, I can hear it.
Right? It's like, yeah, go and have fun. Get going. Don't hold yourself back with everything that's holding you down. Just go for it. Go hit the road, Jack, and don't you turn back. No more, no more, no more, no more.
I think that's how life should be.
Totally.
I think sometimes we lose sight of that. That's so important. I love the definition of that. I really love the definition of that. So everybody defines success in a different way. We some people define success because of materialism. Some people define success just by waking up in the morning. We all have a different definition. Denise, how do you define success in your terms?
In my terms, happy.
I like it.
If you're happy, you're successful because you're doing something right.
That's true. And I think also
I like keeping it simple.
That's where peace comes into it. That's definitely where peace comes into it. So I only have two more for you. And my second to last question is, after you feel, and only when you feel, like you have done enough in the world to help people become their best selves, helped yourself become your best self, done all the work and the traveling that you could have possibly done, walked the dog as many times as you possibly can, what would you like your legacy to be in this world?
My legacy to be would be that people know how to focus on what's important, and the important part that they need to focus on is having joy and happiness, like just living life because you get to, not because you have to.
That's a good point. Guys, listen to that. That's an important quote right there. I think that's even a quote somewhere along the line in there. So that's a good one. Denise, before I have the lovely pleasure of thanking you for coming on the show, I would love to ask, where can everybody else find you if they want to find out more about you, if they want to connect with you about life coaching? Where can they find you?
I am me. My business is me. I am my business. So you just look for Denise Drinkwalter, because this is the real deal. I don't create anything separate.
I like
so it's DeniseDrinkwalter.com. You can't mess it up, really, unless you spell it wrong.
Hey. Denise, I want to thank you so much for taking your time and your patience more than anything else. Time, patience, compassion, kindness, everything that you have brought to the show today. I am so humbled and grateful to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a privilege. I knew it would be.
Aw, thank you so much, Denise. Guys, I want to thank you so much for listening to the As People podcast, and please remember you can subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and any other platform that you prefer listening to. Please also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and you can also donate to the As People podcast by simply going to the Savia Rocks website or just typing in paypal.me/Us People podcast. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Stay happy, stay positive, and as always, please continue to be kind to one another.
Now's my time to let it go. Now's my time to let it go. Now is the time for me to focus. Stop all that playing hocus pocus. Stop doing it yourself. You need a little help. This time I want to see you shining.
Yeah.
I think you need a little guidance. You want to feel alive.
Great. Yeah, you were great. No surprise. That was wonderful. Thank you. No, that was really good. Yeah.
You know that it's worth
That's
it.
good.
Cause nobody's perfect. Sometimes you need to say, I'm gonna be okay. Made up my mind, now is my time to shine. Now is my time to shine. Time that you let go, time that you let go. Now is my time to shine. Now is my time to shine. Now is my time to shine. Time that you let go, time that you let go. Now is my time to shine. Time to let it go. Now is my time. Now is my time. Time to let it go. Now is my time. Now is my time. Time to let it go. Now is my time. Now is my time. Time to let it go. You are your own worst enemy. Thinking too far, what's ahead of me? One day at a time. Just enjoy the ride. Open those eyes, see the light. Ignite that fire inside it. Let it breathe breath into life. Push all your fears to the side. Control your mind, it's all alright. Enjoy your life, the joy is mine. Commit to you, you got the tools. Everything you do, you make the rules. Sometimes you need